September 12th, 2021, was supposed to be just another quiet morning in the affluent Westlake neighborhood of Austin, Texas. But at exactly 7:43 a.m., a trembling voice crackled through 911 dispatch. "My husband is dead. He's in the pool. I think he slipped. He's not breathing." The caller was 58-year-old Marlene Danvers, wife of Arthur Danvers, a retired tech executive. Arthur, 62, had made his fortune in cybersecurity and had since retired to a life of wine tastings, neighborhood poker nights, and bird watching in his tranquil, custom-built home overlooking the Colorado River. Responders arrived to find Arthur face down in the pool, fully clothed in flannel pajamas. No sign of struggle or any overturned furniture. Marlene stood nearby, shaking in her silk robe, mascara streaked down her face. She told officers Arthur must have slipped while clearing leaves from the water. It had happened before, she said, but never like this. The preliminary verdict, accidental drowning. No criminal investigation was opened until a neighbor came forward, and until Marlene tried to cash out a $2.5 million life insurance policy just 3 days later. Arthur and Marlene had married 5 years prior after meeting at a charity gala. He was recently divorced. She claimed to be a former interior designer. Together, they made a stunning pair. Arthur, tall and soft-spoken. Marlene, elegant and magnetic. To outsiders, they appeared deeply in love. But beneath the curated Instagram feed of wine glasses and sunsets was a more complicated picture. Neighbors noticed Arthur had become more reclusive. He canceled poker nights more often. He drank more. He seemed dimmer. His closest friend, Mark, recalled Arthur confiding in him just a week before his death. "I don't feel safe in my own house anymore." Arthur brushed it off as stress, or perhaps a side effect of the blood pressure medication he was taking. But the sense of dread in his voice lingered. The morning of his death, nothing seemed out of place, except for one strange omission. Arthur had installed a high-end Nest surveillance system throughout the home, including exterior cameras aimed at the pool. But when detectives requested the footage, Marlene told them the servers were down. Arthur had been trying to fix them all week. She shrugged. Convenient. Tragic. Maybe both. That explanation might have held until the neighbor across the street offered up their doorbell camera footage. The footage from a neighbor's Ring camera showed Marlene at 6:12 a.m., over an hour before her 911 call. Dressed in makeup and outdoor sandals, she was dragging a garden hose across the patio. She paused multiple times, checking over her shoulder. Then the camera cut out. That same hose was later discovered inside the pool, coiled near the deep end. When detectives revisited the scene, they grew suspicious. The water's pH level was unusually high. The coroner's report, initially overlooked, revealed chlorine burns in Arthur's nasal passages and lungs, suggesting he hadn't merely fallen in. He'd inhaled highly concentrated pool chemicals, most likely from the hose. Detective Andrea Salazar reopened the case and began to quietly build a timeline. 6:12 a.m., Marlene seen dragging hose. 6:30 to 6:45 a.m., no movement detected at the house. 7:43 a.m., Marlene calls 911. 8:10 a.m., Marlene claims she found Arthur after waking up. 2 days later, she files the $2.5 million life insurance claim. Salazar pulled Marlene's records and discovered something far darker. Marlene Danvers wasn't her legal name. Her birth certificate listed her as Marlene Reyes. Her past, meticulously buried, included 2 dead husbands. Both had died young, one with a heart condition, the other in a cabin fire. In both cases, Marlene collected insurance payouts. A former fiancé in Arizona had vanished in 2009. No charges were filed. A business partner died in a boating accident in 2011. The payout? Over $400,000. And then there was a restraining order filed in Nevada in 2015 by a woman who claimed Marlene had tried to poison her brother. Salazar's gut told her they were dealing with a serial manipulator, possibly a serial killer, but they needed more. That's when Mark remembered the flash drive Arthur had once shown him and joked, "This is my insurance." The flash drive, found hidden in Arthur's locked workshop drawer, was a digital time bomb, labeled, "If I disappear." Inside were journal entries in Word documents, screenshots of Marlene's Google search history, fast-acting poisons, how much chlorine is lethal, photos of receipts for chlorine pool shock powder purchased 2 weeks prior, a PDF of the life insurance policy Marlene had insisted Arthur sign, and a final note: "If anything happens to me, check the hose." Marlene had motive, millions of dollars. She had method, the hose and the chemical burns. And now, they had intent. Thanks to Arthur's final message. She was arrested on November 3rd, 2021 without incident. Marlene's trial began in September 2022. Prosecutors presented a methodical, devastating case. They called in forensic experts who explained how Marlene likely mixed the chlorine powder into the hose stream. They played her 911 call alongside the doorbell footage. They introduced the flash drive and its chilling contents. The defense tried to reframe Arthur as paranoid, declining mentally, and increasingly erratic. They claimed he hallucinated threats and created elaborate digital stories to match. They called him a brilliant man made fragile by aging. But the jury didn't buy it. After a 6-week trial and just 3 hours of deliberation, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty, first-degree murder and insurance fraud. Marlene Danvers was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story wasn't done. 3 months after the trial, a contractor hired to inspect the Danvers home's heating system discovered a false panel in the basement behind the water heater. Inside, a hidden crawl space held a box wrapped in black plastic. Inside the box was a leather-bound journal and a burner phone. The journal was Marlene's. Entries dated back to 1995. Page after page outlined her manipulation of past lovers, her alias changes, and the pattern of seduction, deception, and death. Each name was marked with a red check. She wrote of life insurance policies like chess moves. One entry read, "Arthur was smart, smarter than the rest. I had to move faster." Another, "Men want to feel needed. Then they make themselves vulnerable. Then they make mistakes. That's when I step in." And then a chilling line, "I used to feel guilt. Now I feel clarity." The journal solidified the prosecution's case and confirmed that Arthur's death wasn't an isolated tragedy, but the closing chapter in a decades-long scheme. Arthur's friend Mark moved out of Westlake. Too many memories, too many whispers. The Danvers home was sold to a real estate investor who never moved in. Locals say the lights flicker at night, that the pool ripples without wind, that the hose, no matter how many times it's discarded, finds its way back to the deep end. As for Marlene, she's serving her sentence at the Gatesville Correctional Facility. She hasn't spoken publicly since her conviction, but inside her cell, according to a prison guard, she writes every day. Quiet, calculated, with the same fine, looping cursive found in the crawl space journal. And rumor has it, she's working on a memoir. Arthur's last words, preserved on the flash drive, now serve as a quiet warning to all. Love doesn't kill you. Denial does. If you see the signs, run.